week's Kids Church at Home. Have you ever gone fishing? Fishing can be a relaxing activity if you don't live by the sea. But if you live by the sea, you know that fishing is a lot more than relaxing. It's about feeding your body. It's about taking care of your loved ones. It's about building a life in communion with nature and being humbled by nature. Fishing can really mean a lot. And that's our theme today, is all about fishing. But of course, there's going to be a twist to the kind of fishing that we might be talking about. Before we get into our story and activity, our special shout out this week goes to Lily and Alina. I hope that you might experience some fishing. Now, Jesus lived a long time ago, and there was farming and there were other ways of making and gathering and harvesting food, but fishing, being able to catch fish, was such a central part of the diet of the people that Jesus lived with. It was really important to their whole well-being to be able to have access to fish. And some of Jesus's followers were fishermen to start. Their whole livelihood was built around fishing and then selling fish so that they could both feed their own families and feed the communities around them. Fishing meant so much to those communities. Let's take a moment to listen to a story about how Jesus met some of those fishermen who became some of his closest friends. So many fish, based on Luke 5, 1-11. The sun sparkled on the lake. It was a beautiful day. Jesus stood at the edge. Crowds of people were pressing in close, waiting to hear him teach about God. But Jewish teachers would sit down, and Jesus had no place to sit. So he turned to look at the calm waters, and when he turned back to the lakeshore, he noticed 2 fishing boats that hadn't been there before. The men had just come in, and they'd been fishing in the boats, and they were now preparing to wash their nets nearby. Jesus walked over. He thought this was a place for him to sit and teach from. The boat belonged to Simon, and so he asked if Simon wouldn't take him out from the shore a little bit so that he could teach from the seat in the boat. Simon agreed. And when Jesus finished teaching, the people in the crowd left. "Fisher," Jesus said to Simon, "won't you go out deeper into the water and let your nets down? And let's catch some fish today as well." "Oh, sir," Simon said, "we've been fishing all night and we did not catch even 1 fish. But if you say so, we will go to the deep water again and try again." So Simon signaled to his friends, and the 2 boats sailed out to the deep waters. Simon threw his net into the water, not thinking he would get much, but then was surprised when his net came back filled with fish. Simon called to the other boat for help. There were so many fish in the boats, they almost sank. When Simon realized what was going on, he fell to his knees and said, "Oh, Jesus, I'm not good enough to be with you." James and John, Simon's friends, were also amazed at all that had happened. But Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you'll be catching people, not fish." And when the boats were again at shore, the fishers left everything there and followed Jesus. I wonder what stands out in that story for you. I wonder, what do you wonder about in that story? Here are some of the things I wonder about. I wonder what inspired Simon and his friends to agree to take Jesus out in the boat so he could teach. He was a stranger to them, and they just spent all night working. They must have been tired and wanted to go home. But they still extended hospitality to the stranger on the beach and rowed him out so that he could teach. And I do wonder about all those fish. What must Simon and his friends have felt when suddenly their nets were full of fish? They were tired and exhausted and had felt empty of hope that their nets had come back empty and they didn't have food for their family and community that day. And then after hearing Jesus' message of God's love, their nets became so full they didn't know what to do with all the fish. They had so much to share. I wonder if that isn't a little bit like when we hear about God's love. Sometimes we can experience times when we're sad, we're feeling tired, we're feeling hopeless, and then we're reminded of God's love being there and of the love that the people around us have, and that lifts us up. And sometimes we just feel like we need to share that love and excitement with others. Have you ever experienced your heart being so full it could burst? That's kind of like the nets that were so full they could burst. Well, Simon and his friends, they decided that they needed to go and share that love with others. And so instead of filling people's bellies with fish, they chose to continue as friends with Jesus, filling people's hearts so that their hearts were full with God's love. And that's how they became fishers of people. Not with a hook and rod, but by moving from filling people's bellies with nutritious food to filling people's hearts and souls with messages of hope and love that would fill them and give them life. I wonder how we might do that too. How we might be those fishers of people who find ways to fill people's hearts with love and hope. God's invitation is always there for us to be fishers of people. For our mindful moment this week, we're going to use our bodies to help us remember the story. So find some space where you can move around and be comfortable, and you can reach out wide. And let's use our body in some yoga poses to help us remember the story. So as you remember, the story starts with Jesus standing on a beach by the side of a lake. So let's put our feet hip width apart, plant them strong into the ground, and then let's take our hands down by our sides, moving our shoulders away from our ears, standing tall, tall, tall. And imagine that your feet are planted in the ground, but your head is reaching up to the sky. And we can imagine that we are Jesus standing here on the side of the lake. I wonder what Jesus felt when he saw this big crowd of people gathering around him. He had no place to go. He wanted to teach them. And then he saw a boat. Come with me, let's make a boat as our next pose. For our boat, we're going to get down on the ground. We're going to leave our knees bent and our feet on the floor, and then we're going to lean back with our back straight. And let's imagine our arms are the oars or the paddles of the boat. And we can stay right here as a boat, or we can lift the other side of the boat up. So we have a big boat floating in the sea, ready to welcome Jesus to come and sit in the boat. Big, strong boat that's going to have to carry some full nets pretty soon. That's great. Awesome. Let's come back down. Well, remember that the first thing they did before fishing and gathering fish is that Jesus sat in the boat and he taught. So let's bring our legs crossed in front of us and we'll stack our shoulders over our hips and we'll imagine our tailbone nice and strong into the ground and bring our hands out front. It's traditional for Jewish teachers to sit with their students cross-legged, and they would teach through sharing stories. So it wasn't very much like the classrooms and the teachers that we're used to, maybe with computers and technologies and blackboards and whiteboards and smartboards. It was just people who would sit together and share stories. So we'll take a breath here and we'll sit and remember that Jesus taught through the relationship he built by sitting with people. Another big breath. Well, we'll remember that after Jesus taught, Simon and his friends were inspired. And when Jesus invited Simon and his friends to go back out into the deep water to go fishing, even though they were reluctant, they went anyhow. So let's bring ourselves down to the ground. And we're going to lie down straight. And we're going to imagine that we are a fish. We're a fish that is in one of those full nets. So lying straight on the ground, tucking your shoulders down, we're actually going to push our chest up to the ceiling by pushing our elbows into the ground. And you can leave your head on the ground too. So we're going to create an arch as we push our chest to the ceiling, but the top of our head remains on the ground. Let's see if we can be a fish together. Ready? Let's breathe in and push up. And then remember to breathe all those fish in that full net as Simon and his friends move from fishing for fish to fishing for people. Let's take one more big breath here. Are you a great big fish? Great big fish. And then release. Well, Simon and his friends were so inspired, they decided they would become fishers of people. They were so inspired. Let's get inspired up in a warrior pose. Let's see if we can be inspired like Simon and his friends. Let's take one foot and face it out to the side, and we'll step our other foot way back. So we've got a big step, and then bend our front knee. And we want to remember that we are peaceful warriors for God. So we're going to reach our hand up and pointing to the sky, imagine and feel all that power and open our hearts to be full of hope and love and ready to share that. A great, strong, peaceful warrior. But Simon and his friends were also humble warriors. And so we can take our back arm and swinging both our arms around, we'll come and lean down over our knee. And let's breathe here a couple of breaths, remembering that we are both inspired, but also humble by God's love. And then let's sweep our hands back up and we'll come back to where we started in our mountain pose, remembering Jesus. Well, I hope that telling the story with your body helps you to remember the story, and maybe it helps you to think of parts of the story a little differently. How did it feel for you to use your body to tell the story? activity today, we are going to make a fishing game. We'll need some supplies so we can create the game together, and then you can go off and play the game with your family or friends. So to create the pieces for this game, you will need some colored paper, some scissors, a marker, some tape, and then we need some string, at least 2 pieces of string. We'll need a couple of sticks to be our fishing rods. I've found a couple of pencils that I can use. And we'll need a couple of magnets. I've grabbed a couple of magnets off of my fridge, and I'm going to use these for my activity. So join me, let's make the pieces of our game together. Let's start by making our fish pieces. For this we need our piece of paper and our marker and our scissors. We'll put the rest to the side for now. To figure out the right size to make our fish, we're going to fold our piece of paper in half lengthwise, and then we can unfold it, and then we're going to fold it in half the other way and in half. And now when we unfold it, we'll have 8 rectangles on our piece of paper that are roughly the same size. Let me fold that again. I'm going to fold it in half one more time. And I'm going to draw a fish on one of these rectangles. Now a fish, we start in the middle on one side of the rectangle, and we're going to do an arc that's going to go up to the top and then down towards the far corner, like that. And now we're going to go back and start where we were, and we're going to do the arc this time to the bottom of the paper, and then curve and bring it back up to the top corner. And then we can close that. And there is our fish. But I might want some other fish that are slightly different. We can do exactly the same thing. We start with the nose, we'll do a curve and end up at the tail, but we can make the curve bigger or smaller, and that will change the shape of the fish. So I'm going to draw another fish on this rectangle with a slightly different shape. Okay, I have 2 slightly different shapes of fish. I also have a couple of other pieces of paper here, and I'm going to do the same thing on these 2 pieces of paper, so I have slightly different shapes and slightly different colors. And then, well, I have quite a large school of fish now. In fact, I have 13. That's what you want. You want 13 fish. 1 is Jesus and 12 others for his friends. Now what we're going to do on each of our fish, let's add our own names onto one of them. So I'll put my name onto one fish. And then we can add names of our family onto some of the other fish. And then we're going to fill the rest of our fish with other names, maybe names of your friends or people you know. Or if you run out of names, here's a list of other names that you can add who are the names of friends that Jesus had. And you can add these names onto your fish. So let me finish filling up my fish with all different names. All right, my fish are all ready. Now we need to get on to making our fishing rods. For our fishing rods, we'll grab one of our sticks and a piece of string. And we're just going to attach the string onto one end just by tying a knot on it. There we go. And on the other end, we're going to tape our magnet. That was pretty easy. There's my fishing rod. Now if I need to make it shorter, I can just twirl the string. There we go. And now I have my magnetic fishing rod. Oh, but wait, that's not going to pick up the fish. We need something else on those fish to help this fishing rod pick them up. I have a few things that my magnet might work with. Let's see if we can try a paperclip? Yes, the paperclip works. What about a colored paperclip? That also works. And then we have some coins. Let's see, we've got a quarter. That works. That works very well. How about the nickel? The nickel doesn't work. Okay, so nickel, we'll put that back. How about the dime? The dime works as well. What can you find in your house that has enough metal that the magnet can pick it up? We're going to need 13 of whatever it is that you can find to attach to our fish. I think I'm going to go with dimes today. If you choose paper clips, you can just add the paper clip right on to the fish like that. And then when we go fishing, it will pick up the fish. I don't think I have 13 paper clips though, so I'm going to use the dimes and I'm just going to tape them on to the back of my fish. Well, I have all the pieces of my game ready. If you're going to play with somebody else, you'll probably need to make yourself another fishing rod. And then we can go and play our game together by trying to pick up the different fish with different names with our fishing rods. Well, I'm going to go see if any of my kids will play my fishing game with me in the house. I hope that you can find somebody to play with you as well. Maybe you can come up with some different rules. Maybe there are different points for different colors. Maybe when you catch a fish, you have to do or say something nice about that person that would fill up their heart. What kind of rules might you come up with to play this people fishing game? I hope that they are rules that fill your heart and can fill the hearts of those around you. Remembering that this is all about spreading God's love, about filling our hearts, not just our bodies, with God's life and hope, so that we can spread that little by little to all those that we meet. Thank you for joining me as we fished for people and each other this week. May you go with this blessing on your heart so that it fills that heart of yours with much hope and love to share with all those that you meet. May there be love in your heart to give. May there be joy in your heart to share. And may there be courage in your heart to lift others up. See ya!